Halo sahabat, masih di negeri kanguru Australia. Hari ini kami akan berkunjung ke markas Esri Australia. Di sini kami juga bersama tim dari Esri Indonesia. Langsung saja kita berjalan kaki untuk ke sana. Dari hotel kami yang ada di Kitsen ke Esri Australia di Kitsen itu sekitar 1 km. Jadi perkiraan kami sekitar 10-15 menit akan sampai ke sana. Di sini anginnya kencang sekali, walaupun terlihat terik. Cuma di sini cuacanya sangat dingin, sekitar 10 derajat Celcius. Ya, ini dia sudah sampai di markasnya Esri Australia di nomor 414. Oke, langsung aja kita menuju ke dalam. Nanti di sana kita akan keliling-keliling dan berdiskusi dengan tim dari Esri Australia.
Awesome, that's good. So if I zoom in, we've got a whole range of spatial data on the left. So what you're seeing here is the zoning information. Okay. So we mentioned we started off with your spa. Under spa, you probably have zoning, and from here, I can get information about area. I can also turn on other information. Like, I'm interested in heritage. Okay. So we are the heritage asset.
Mantap aja, sama kayak Yudi coy.
Is this similar to
Yudi coy,
the layers that you
warna
have?
bual gitu coy.
Very similar?
Si rantang ya.
Tanya kayak dia udah dapet strukturnya nggak? Map struktur.
So we can send you a link to this one because
Ada nggak ya?
I think it's quite useful.
Tanya dong.
You can do simple things from here, like search by property boundary, search by local government area. Okay. So if I went to Campbelltown, zoom to that area. If I zoom in, I'll get the same layers drawn. So it's quite useful for, I guess, mums and dads and people just wanting to, or even planners as well, rather than asking for a data download. The government has just a massive open data initiative, so put the data out there and let people use it. So that's about it all from that solution.
Ada yang mau nanya nggak sebelum?
Any questions?
Do you have structure base map?
What's it?
Structure map? Do you have peta struktur?
Do you have this kind of like the whole city for road networks data and then the planning for the city infrastructure? Do you have any samples on that? Yeah, city's infrastructure plan. Yeah.
So it would be like
The main road networks, maybe tall highways, and then there's also where there will be the city center or something like that. Is that something that Australia is doing, or do they have that also published beside the zoning?
Or
Sama itu
street plan?
Iya,
sama itu
road network.
base mapnya pakai apa? Buat referensinya. Kalau kita kan sendiri, kalau mereka gimana?
Kalau mereka pakai Esri.
Oh gitu. Jadi udah nggak bikin itu lagi mereka ya? Nggak bikin base map lagi?
Iya.
yeah, sorry. Okay, so this is a good one. So EPI is for all of New South Wales. Okay.
Produce one map.
And then within New South Wales, there are hundreds of local councils, local government agencies. So I'll show you one example. right now we are in the local government area for Sydney. So if I zoom here, let me choose a. So this is the local government area for Sydney, and they have their own GIS. Okay, so there's the state authority, DFI, which is SPA, and then there are local government authorities who manage the property boundaries, the zoning within that area. But DFI bring all the data together in one web service. So here is City of Sydney. They're using Hub to publish data, be it streets, projects, trees, that kind of thing. Okay. So for New South Wales, that is a job of this agency. That is typically 2 to 3 years.
Oh, 2 sampai 3 tahun.
Because New South Wales is twice the size of Germany. So it's massive, right?
Gimana?
Jerman 2 kalinya Jerman.
Oh, besarnya.
Yeah. So it's a big area. So if you think about New South Wales is like this.
Itu per
90%.
dia punya satu yang maksudnya di level kementerian atau lokal government-nya yang ngambil gitu.
Di DFSI-nya itu levelnya New South Wales. Kalau di Indonesia provinsi, state gitu lah. Ya provinsi kali ya.
Biasanya apa?
Kalau dia sih nyebutnya di sini state. Mereka kan nggak ada provinsi, jadi
negara bagian lah ya.
Iya, negara bagian.
Nah ini kayak sejajarnya provinsi ya.
Ada dari provinsi kalau.
Iya.
So in New South Wales, the area is big. 90% of the land has no people. So 90% of the people live in about 5% of the land. So most of the population is on the coast near Sydney. No one lives there.
State. Negara bagian.
Kotanya Sydney.
Kotanya Sydney.
Negara bagian. Hah? Kenapa? Iya.
Iya.
Kayak Jakarta kan kita
That is New South Wales.
Jakarta Pusat ya? Jawa Barat, Bandung.
So they are trying to compare, with Indonesian administrative level.
Okay.
So how to compare New South Wales with, for example, our province? Yeah.
So that is New South Wales. And that imagery is updated normally 3 years, sometimes 2 years. There are private companies in Australia.
Nggak, 90% nggak ada orang.
Oh iya, 5% berarti konsentrasinya itu di situ.
Iya.
5% doang.
Iya. Sisanya masih hutan.
Namanya
Beli dah, beli tanah.
si wilayahnya.
Si itu belum masuk nilai ya? Ciputra ya?
Pengembang masuk.
Ciputra belum masuk. Mereka udah digarap kemudian.
Masih banyak poinnya.
Hah? Ular ya.
Tangkepin.
Gak apa-apa buat Ciputra masuk Pak. Putra sinar masuk. Bangun negara di dalam negara.
Cukup boleh izin ya?
Hah?
Cukup boleh izin. Cukup boleh izin banyak itu hutang-hutangnya.
Tuh sedikit ya.
NSW
Tuh negara bagian itu. Berarti kita New South Wales di sini.
Kita dalam situ.
Canberra,
Ini Pulau Jawa lah.
Brisbane, Brisbane di Queensland. Itu mana? Si itu. Siang. Oh, Melbourne di bawah. Di Victoria State.
Jauh ya.
Yang di bawah ya.
Di paling pinggir.
Selatan Pak. Tenggara Pak.
Papuanya lah Papuanya kita.
Tenggara.
Tenggara Barat Daya. Timur laut ya.
Angin laut ya.
So this is the web services from DFSI. It
Itu-
contains
Hah?
the
Mana?
Enggak.
property boundaries,
Enggak.
but also the imagery.
Iya. Ngelatin gue yang ngelatinnya.
So I just showed you the difference.
Saya mencos. Enggak apa-apa, asal jangan. Jadi inget-inget.
Atau yang lagi.
Jangan.
Tadi udah bersih.
Hah?
Tadi udah
Udah
bersih.
browsing.
Wah, ini cepet gue ini.
Okay, so this is one area of city. Oh, you can see that this used to be a rubbish dump, a landfill. This area here. This imagery is quite old.
Udah lipik ya.
This imagery is from about 3 years ago. And this is the
namanya.
DFSI source, okay, for free across New South Wales. In Australia, we have some private companies that
Palawan.
fly imagery
Sama
every
kita dari AU
2 to 3 months. Okay? Every 2 to 3 months. So for a project like MRT, that's really important because it shows progress, right? So Nearmap is one company. They're in Australia, New Zealand, and USA, and they fly imagery every 2 to 3 months. This is what the imagery looks like from Nearmap for the same area today. So you can see the development that's going on.
Oh, jadi setiap project
So
pasti
this is
foto
a
udara.
major
Yes.
road project about 30.
Setiap project pasti akan melakukan pengambilan data gitu ya.
Enggak, ini yang udah ready to use, jadi ada perusahaan yang menyediakan.
Oh.
Udah di luar itu. Pernah.
This is quite expensive data.
Usulnya
Organized.
kali tidak.
Dia swasta Pak, makanya harus dibeli.
Drone kita aja nanti jual buat udara.
Iya, dia jual data, jadi kalau pemerintah dia jual data ke swasta juga.
Iya, kalau kita kan punya drone sendiri, mikir jual gitu.
Iya.
Komersilkan.
Boleh.
Iya, dia jual data. Jadi
Cuma kalau kita kan belum punya mekanismenya itu gimana.
Tapi di swasta apa?
Di Malang dua.
Di BIK juga kan jual. Kita mau beli kereta skala berapa. Cuma kan di DKI belum punya mekanisme itu kayak apa tuh.
So here's another area in Sydney.
Terus
So just to give you some
dia BIM sama mana?
idea, this
Bimnya udah
is
mana?
the
BIM-nya yang tadi sih buat project kayak
Open house, ya?
kayak tadi.
Yang itu kaitannya sama pengawasan bangunan nih. Jadi tadi kan udah ada permohonan ya. Permohonannya
This is
sampai
very close to the city.
ada informasi ini
And this
sedang
is what it looks like
sedang
today.
mohon terus sampai
Completely.
proses pemberian sertifikatnya terus sampai
So here
itu
they're
Jawa
building,
itu sepe enggak tuh? Dalam
light
proses
rail.
pembangunannya sampai benar-benar finish
Here
dan
they're
digunakan.
building major motorway underground.
Ibu
Ibu dulu ya.
Keren.
Nggak berarti.
nggak boleh saya.
So we have seen that there is the planning portal that people can submit, development to the government. So at the moment,
Yeah.
how far is the progress monitor? For example, is there any progress update until the building is constructed? So there is also an information after the building is constructed, or if the building that is right now constructed comply to the regulations or not. So how long right now in the progress it is already monitored, or just until you submit and then give permit for people to build based on the plan.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, pusing nih.
Pusing loh. Sedih. Nggak bisa ngomong.
Lu mau ngapa om ini om? Apa jadi kerutan lu ya? Apa ini?
Jangan tuh ini tuh. Lu nggak masalah kan?
Lu mau ngaruh? Itu ada kan?
Okay, so very quickly I'll explain the process. So for major projects like Mrt, but also smaller projects, there is a project approval workflow. Okay. So part of the workflow is, okay, so big road project like this motor needs certain approval, right? So we step through these different workflows. The first one being the preparation of an environmental impact statement. Do you have similar? Environmental impact assessment? Or
Ada AMDAL Pak,
EIA?
di siapa?
Ada.
Yes.
Untuk itu bangunan-bangunan tertentu.
Yes, yeah, they also have for certain projects.
Certain projects.
Yeah, it in the environment department also.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they have separate environment department.
Okay, cool. So we do the document,
Ya.
then we move through to exhibition, right? So exhibition is where the big document is in the public, and members of the public can write their submission about the project. Like it's too high, it's too low, it's too noisy. Does that make sense?
How long?
Keluarga ya. How long exhibition?
Normally 60 days.
60 days.
Some smaller projects, 21 days.
Oh, selalu ya. Always. For
60 days.
For major, normally 60 days. Once we have got the submission, big projects like this one, maybe 10,000 submission from the public. Then we bring the submissions together, we write a report. This gets assessed, okay? So is the project listening to the public? And then we step through and the determination. So this is whether the project gets approved. And the project normally gets approved with something called COA. So this is
Kagak jangan. Yang mau komen.
Petition.
Yang mau komen.
of
Kanan kiri depan belakang.
COA. So condition of approval is like
Kita duluan kan dong.
step one.
Banyak kan dia nih pedulnya.
Sama
Kayak ada apa tadi?
Apaan? Exhibition.
Exhibition.
First step is we want to build a tower, right? A big tower. The tower can be, we propose, it will be 50 meters high. Okay.
Banyak. Bagaimana kalian bertanya?
Then we go to exhibition. In the public? The public say, no, it's too big, right? So then we revise the design to be
kayak
Maybe,
sini nih dia masa
40
itu
meters
ada survei atau gimana gitu.
with a setback.
Saat sebelum perizinan.
Because this might be like
Pembangunan itu
shadow.
apakah ada
Shadow.
mekanisme untuk
Survei.
survei berapa kali
But-
sampai bangun itu jadi gitu.
Masih ada ya?
When we get to
Iya,
site,
kalau gitu kan ada tuh.
okay, the government or the community say make it 40 meters and this view. then we actually get a condition of approval to say, okay, it must be 40 meters. Okay, that is okay. But you also must plant 500 trees. Trees
Quantity ya.
or area. Once this is approved,
Intensitas.
so once this is approved, then the construction starts. Yeah. Then the compliance officers. Do you have officers?
Yes, actually in the SPA also compliance penindakan.
Okay. So once this is approved, then the compliance officers are checking for the conditions of approval.
Jadi Pak dia survei tadi
Bongkar nggak ada
setelah
bongkar.
setujui.
Approve.
So if someone violates the COA, so what the compliance people will do? Will they?
Fine.
Oh fine. Didenda.
Oh denda. Oh.
Yeah, fine.
So one example
Kalau di Indonesia malah mau denda.
Masih dong kayaknya Pak.
Jadi kalau di sini tuh, kalau kita mau bangun gedung tuh ada public hearing dulu, disosialisasikan. Kayak modelnya kayak gini boleh nggak?
Iya, kalau itu namanya kalau di kita persetujuan warga. Kan gini ke belakang nggak boleh.
Jadi kalau dia kan dia
Suka itu.
tadinya begini, jadi begini.
So one example is the noise.
Ya,
Noise. Okay.
bisingan.
So sometimes the condition of approval here, we want to be constructing 24/7. So all day, all night.
Kita gitu juga.
Nggak ada kita mah.
But then the community, the public say, no, they say, make it short and make it 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay? But 7 days a week. And then the condition of approval may be 9 to 5, but only Monday to Saturday. Yeah? So these days, the compliance officers will go out using RTA on their mobile, take photos of noise, take photos of air quality, so dust, and they use this as evidence to find the developer.
People can complain by
Yeah. The money can be as big as up to like $2 million. $2 million if they are not doing the conditions.
Pada
$2 juta kali 10.000.
Berarti cabangnya dari
Sama aja pakai kolektor.
Jadi apa namanya?
Kolektor.
Kolektor.
Ngadu ya.
Sama surveyornya. So
Surveyor
the
juga.
compliance officers are using the field survey applications, right?
Yeah, some of them in the council, local government area, some are using collector, survey 123.
Noise juga bisa komplain,
Yeah.
debu juga bisa komplain.
Ada yang punya.
So there's another question
Yeah.
from Pak Hendy.
Lu mau nanya apa ya?
Yeah.
apa Pak?
Yang tadi Pak yang survey aku tanyain. So before the construction start and the permit process, and then after the construction, is there any field survey mechanism from the agency, and how do they do the survey, like before permit and after permit and construction?
Yeah, so compliance officers, there are also compliance engineers, and those engineers check the approved design against what is being constructed. Sometimes the issued for construction model is different to what they construct on site. That is common in Australia because when they dig, maybe the soil, the rock is not suitable, so they have to change the design.
Oke. Kalau di mereka bagian penindakannya itu compliance itu kayak gabungan antara penindakan sama evaluasi saat permitan. Jadi mereka yang survei sebelum ini dan sesudah survei juga mereka ngelihat.
Surveinya berkesinambungan terus.
Lama Pak, sebenarnya kita
Cuma kita lama dari
Enggak, bukan lama, kita males.
So,
ada kok apa sih?
from what the
Pikir lu nggak seru sih kan? Terus ide apa gue bang?
Is there
Hari-hari dilewatin ya Pak ya.
Australia where the government, like demolish the part that's not complied with the conditions, or just only fine? Giving fine to pay.
Yes, there have been some not big projects but small projects where there was no approval. Normally, if the design is significantly different, so very different from the approval, then they have to generate a small report called the modification. So the modification would outline what the impacts of a design change would be, and that has to go through a smaller approval cycle. But there have been some cases in Australia where a building has collapsed. I'll show you yes, this is yeah, so
Dibongkar.
Enggak melanggar, terus enggak nurut sama aturannya, jadi
Kena tindakan.
Bongkar paksa.
bukan emang jelek karena dia melanggar, padahal kan persyaratan itu pasti ada alasannya.
Oh ternyata kayak gitu ya akibatnya.
Karena melanggar jadi
itu ada itu tunnel.
so there was a tunnel project, and the tunnel took out the
Jadi dia ngelewatin.
underground. Yeah.
Padahal situ ada rencana itu.
And so this is a good example where the developer changed the design without getting approval.
Kalau di Jakarta kan gara-gara ada sesuatu bisa dibelokin
Kayak itu
rencananya. Kalau di sini nggak bisa, resiko gitu.
Kalau dulu ada BPUT ya, yang Badan Penyesuaian Suasana dibelok-belokin kena jalan.
Misalnya kita mau ada rencana jaringan pipa
Iya itu.
Pertamina gitu kan, di atasnya udah ada gedung, pipanya dibelokin. Kalau di sini kan pipa stop ininya.
Ya pokoknya iya.
So in Jakarta and Indonesia, it's very common if there's cases like that. Then the one who's changing is the plan, the tunnel plan, not the developer plan. So it's the other way around.
The last example I wanted to share is how government agencies sharing information during the construction phase. So this example is your MRT project. Is that underground?
Yes, underground and underground also.
So that example, this example, what it caused is a lot of phone calls for future projects where people were worried about this happening. So the government needed to create a way to share data so that members of the public knew where the tunnel was under their property. and when the construction was happening. So this one here is the project we were looking at before. So if I flip over here, so this is currently being constructed. So that's the area we were looking at before with the octopus, I call it. And here we have a range of information. And if I click on, say, a property, it will show me and do the calculations of where the tunnel will be. What this has done is reduce, so decrease the phone calls to the government authority, because the members of the public can view this and they know clearly where the tunnel will be. They can also see the progress. So this here is the so you can see here. So this arrow, this is the tunnel machine, cutting away. So you can see this is what has been excavated. So if there is a property over here and they feel like shaking, then rather than calling, they can see, it's not because of the project, because I'm here, that's it. There must be another project or another utility or something happening that is causing this one.
Masyarakat boleh menunjukkan keberatan gitu kali ya.
Iya, jadi mereka itu menginformasikan kayak MRT ini kan dia ngebor kan, ngebor. Jadi kan kalau di sini orang nelfon kan, ini ada bor gue goyang-goyang gitu. Nah kalau di sini jadi sebelum nelfon lihat dulu benar nggak bahwa lagi ada pengeboran.
Cuman di Jakarta beda. Tanah tuh dari atas sampai bawah tuh nggak gue gitu. Nggak bisa lewat dari bawah.
Because in Jakarta we have some constraint that people think their land rights consist of air rights and also underground rights. So yeah, so the rights they feel like they also have the rights of underground. That's why usually the government avoids building tunnels below properties, private properties, because people feel like the tunnel that will be underground is their rights. Yeah.
So in Australia, the property owner owns the area above and below to the center of the earth until the substratum has been acquired by a project. So in this case, this property owner owns above and below. But if a government project comes along, then they can acquire the substratum from here to the center of the earth. It becomes very complicated where you have multiple projects overlapping. The worst case in Australia is where this property is zoned. So the zoning is for maybe mixed use or residential high-rise, which means that you could potentially build a underground car park. So if you have a proposal for an underground car park and then you have a tunnel project, then you might you might end up with this again.
So do the government pay for the rights to the property owner, or is there any regulation that states, once the government wants to, build big projects like this main tunnel, then the property owner has to, give out the rights to the government?
So the government has the authority to acquire the substratum for major projects, and the title, so the property title will change to say that the property owner owns from ground to 43 meters below ground, and then from there to the center of the Earth is owned by, say, the road authority.
So is there any compensation paid to the property owner for that, or?
Not for substrata, but for surface, then there is, and also for
Nggak ada kamu.
aerial stratum, so air stratum.
Berarti kalau ada kewenangan pemerintah gitu.
Iya, jadi dianggap milik pribadi, tapi kalau pemerintah ini pemerintah ngambil gitu.
Boleh dipakai.
Oh, ada klausulnya ya.
Iya.
I think it's, did anyone have any other questions? Or?
Any question? Bahri tak?
Maharita, Mbak, any question?
More question apa? Is there two version of map? We publish by DFSI and
Yeah, so one base map for imagery and vector is by DFSI.
Itu RTW, ini RTR, kira-kira gitu deh. Skala lain, beda skala.
tapi mana?
One map,
One data.
one policy.
So this is the DFSI map. Yeah. So this is one example of DFSI,
Di data ini. Oh,
and this is the whole of New South Wales.
Oke, dia cuma di Sydney doang ya.
Ini
Yang tadi
Jakarta
yang
doang
dari
ada.
Scale ya.
dari 6 itu aja.
Yeah,
provinsi aja.
where so this is old technology. It's using tiles, whereas the e-planning portal is using vector tiles.
Tadi orang itu warnanya ikut ini.
Yang base map DKI juga ganti faktor tile aja kan bagus nih kayak gini.
Yeah, so you can see roads and that kind of thing. Yeah. So that,
if you want to mapping that area, which one? Which map you want to use?
Jauh dulu.
Misalkan ini buat semua ibu.
yeah, it depends. Like,
Oh, tergantung ini, tergantung perubahannya.
yeah, it depends. I'll show you one example, right? Okay, we'll come all the way back around. And we'll finish where we started. So. Okay, so what we need first, Marita, is what do we need first? We need the property boundary, yeah? Okay, so for that I'm going to go to DFSI. That's the authority for the cadastre, the parcel, the property boundary. So they have it available in ArcGIS Online, but I'll just go to their back end and just grab it. Okay, so here we have the cadastre. And that cadastre, that property boundary is for all of New South Wales. And if I zoom in a bit more, we will see the now, so we've got the properties, right? Now we want to get the zoning, okay? The zoning authority is DPI, okay? DPIE. So for that, I can go to their system. So you can see this is just the back-end spatial data from their spatial viewer. these are all the layers in that viewer, and I'll just bring across the land zoning that we were looking at before. There we go.
Terus di sini kalau ada perubahan rencana itu langsung berubah atau online nggak sih kalau ada perubahan?
Oh, yes.
Di zona ini tuh
Siapa yang melakukannya?
kalau kita kan zonanya
Kan kita tuh kalau ada perubahan si lantai 3 tuh yang berubahin langsung online gitu.
kalau ini mah kayaknya sih karena tanahnya itu milik negara.
Berarti di sini punya pemerintah atau masyarakat atau apa?
So you can see here there are two areas that have gaps. There is no zoning for here, no zoning for here. And I can see here that this is a special zone area. Okay. So in 2013 there was a special zone, and because the authority is City of Sydney, I could go to their website and see if they have data available for that area. So from Hub, I can search for, say, there we go, planning and control. It looks like that's the data set we want. And if I bring this over, I should be able to bring that in. Oh. Broken.
Custom modelnya baik tuh segitu JavaScript
yang ini pakai programnya yang tadi yang 24 itu
masuk yang
oh
saya
setnya
bukan setnya dia kan bikin
Sorry. There we go. So I guess in summary, there is no one data source, but there are many authorities who are responsible for authoring, sharing that data, and by using the platform, we can bring all of the data sets together to get a common view. So you can see in this example, we've got the properties, the zoning, and where there are gaps, we can bring in other data sets where maybe the local authority is responsible for the planning control. This area of Sydney, so that area here is what is known as Green Square, and there's about 65,000 people that are going into that small area. Anyone? Any other questions?
Are there many local government that use ADI software beside DPIA and DFSI?
In New South Wales,
Any?
a lot. We can send you some examples if you want. City of Sydney is not the biggest, but the busiest, I would say. There are many others, including some in Victoria and Queensland as well. So yeah, so let's see. So I can send you this link. It is all of the some of the best local governments in Australia who are using the ArcGIS platform. Most of these websites are their ArcGIS online accounts, but there are some good examples here. So City of Newcastle is about 1.5 to 2 hours north of Sydney. Wollongong is about 1.5 to 2 hours south of Sydney. City of Perth is in Western Australia. So they're quite innovative as well. And then, does anyone know where Hobart is? So Hobart is in Tasmania, which is a small island. Yeah, so they have some very simple applications, but yeah, all of these examples, their planning departments are using the platform.
So about the zoning, how long is usually the update? So how often? Maybe once a year or once in 5 years? And if there is an update to that zoning, for example, if there is change from one zone to change to another type of zone, is the change directly or immediately appear in the map, the online map, or not? Or is there any mechanism for before they release the updated version?
Yeah, sure. So that process happens every day as a batch process across New South Wales, where sometimes the property boundary changes, which means they need to change the zone, and vice versa.
So who's doing the change of boundaries, for example? The DFSI.
The zoning is changed by dikota. The property boundaries is changed by DFSI.
But if there's, for example, the FSI says that okay, there is they draw different change to the property boundary, then immediately the DPIE will change as well, right?
Only if the property boundary, normally the property boundary gets subdivided, so cut in half. So because it's within the same zone, you don't need to change the cadastre. So if you look at this as an example,
lebih ke boundary-nya biasanya berubahnya karena dipotong-potong.
Let me go to say
sisir.
Tapi zonanya nggak berubah.
Yep.
So this area, this is the zoning information that DPI have responsibility for. And if I overlay the cadastre, you can see that topologically they are coincident, they share boundaries, but internally there are multiple parcels or property that make up that zoning area. Yeah. So normally if this gets cut, if the zone gets, if the property boundary gets cut in half, we don't need to update the zone. In areas where there are significant precinct planning, so entire areas, then there's normally rezoning, and that is normally it's normally not done overnight. It's a longer process.
Also, the rezoning process, how often does it take place at the whole rezoning?
Normally the DPI establish the strategic plan, and that informs the 20-year, sometimes 50-year vision for areas. but sometimes that changes because projects would be proposed and they need to change the zoning. So, yeah.
Okay.
So like MRT, when you put a MRT station in an industrial area, you probably need to rezone the industrial area to be residential to get over station development, like high rise. You know? So sometimes projects can trigger zoning change. You know?
So these strategic plans you were mentioning, is there any maps made for strategic plan itself?
Yeah.
So, mungkin ini yang lebih ke RT RW 20 tahun strategic plans.
Jadi kita nih,
30.
So in the legislation, there's something called the standard instrument, which is the zoning information, known as the local environment plan. Each local government area is tasked with producing the local environment plan on a 5-year basis, I believe. The strategic plan sets forward the vision for 20 years.
Yang itu ceweknya sekali bicara
terdiam
2-3 bulan jalan
malu kita dulu
ada sering kita kayak gitu. Ini belat belat
LFK, lembaga
belat.
So
Sekarang
here,
di Jakarta di Cikarang ada di BKS.
Apanya?
okay, so here's a static map of city.
Pak Benny mau selesai kemarin.
So this is also produced alongside the web services.
Harus seperti
And that's